management accounting. We're going to have our class 2. We thank God for the privilege again to have a class today. So we're going to reinforce what we were doing last time. Process costing, that is our topic. That is what we're going to do today. And we're going to do the questions that are left behind. They're very important questions. I call them strategic questions. Why? Because they'll help you to understand more of the topic. So we're going to do that question. And in case you have a question, you'll ask. We're going to use all the languages, Swahili and even English, for the purposes of making sure that everybody understands. So welcome, and feel free to ask questions at any point of our class. So we're going to start right away. Question number 1, November 2010. Some student requested me, because of they were unable to do the question, so they wanted us to start with that question. So we're going to start with the November 2010 question number 1. So I'll read the question and then we'll do it together. So I begin by reading. Nyangu Limited is a manufacturer of earthware products. The products undergoes 2 processes, A and B. The following information relates to the months of September 2010. So we're doing the questions there displayed on the board. I'll read it again. I'll start again. So this question had been posted on your Zap, but it's there on the wall. So I'll read it again loudly. Nyangu Limited is a manufacturer of earthware products. The products undergo 2 processes, A and B. The following information relates to the month of September 2010. We have process A, process B, opening work in progress, units 10,000, stage of completion, material cost in shillings 6 million, conversion cost shillings 1.5 million, units started in the months 40,000 units, conversion cost for the months 18 million. Yeah, 18 million. Units completed in the months 44,000 units. Closing work in progress units 2,000. Stage of completion a half. So there's also process B with its details there. You can be able to see the other sides. I don't need to go through the figures again. Additional information number 1: conversion costs are applied uniformly through the 2 processes. Normal loss is 5% of throughput in both processes. Number 3, scrap for normal loss is 250 shillings per unit in process A and 500 shillings per unit in process B. Number 4, actual loss is 4,000 units in process A and 1,500 units in process B. Required: A, statement of equivalent units for process A and B, 4 marks. Part B, process A, Roman 1, total cost of production transferred process B, 4 marks. Roman 2, total cost of closing work in progress, 4 marks. Part C, for process B, total cost of production transferred to finished goods. And Roman 2, that was Roman 1. Roman 2, total cost of closing work in progress. So that is the question. We are going to do the question together, and we are going to follow this procedure we laid out the other time. So we said when you encounter a question on process costing, you first of all find out if it has work in progress or not. So in our question here, we have work in progress, both closing WIP and opening WIP. So the first step always, we said, you prepare a statement of production or flow through that is a statement that shows the units that you expect to produce. You compare it with the actual units so that you can be able to know whether you've incurred losses or not. So we'll start with that one. That is the first. We're going to use weighted average method. The other time we did FIFO. We said there are 2 methods of working process costing a question where we have work in progress. So we have 2 methods. That is work in progress. That is a weighted average, and the FIFO method. I'm sorry, the other time I was mentioning LIFO. It's not LIFO. We don't have LIFO. We have weighted average and FIFO method. So the other time we did FIFO. This time around we are going to do weighted average. So how do you determine whether you use FIFO or weighted average? Some questions will specifically direct you on that. But if the question have not directed you on that, you can use either of the methods. But when you have been given the degree of completion of the open WIP, I'll advise that you use FIFO method. When you don't have the degree of completion of the working of WIP, you use a weighted average. So we're going to use weighted average today so that we're able to distinguish again between FIFO and weighted average. So we'll start. We are going to use weighted average. So using weighted average method. We're using weighted average method. So the first step here, we said it is the flow of production. So right there, flow of production, that is the first thing. So flow of production, we said you take the opening WIP units. They're supposed to be units. So when you check the question, the opening WIP units, 10,000 units, so rather 10,000. These are units, not value. So make sure you write the correct things. So this is 10,000 units. So you add input material units. Input material units started in the months. So they started with 40,000. So input material there, input material 40,000. And then you less closing WIP units. You less the closing WIP units there. Down the question next to the stage of completion, we have 2,000 units there. You deduct those 2,000 units, it is in bracket. And then here you get what we call production or throughput. So you get here production stroke throughput. I just write it in short, throughput. So I give you seconds to add. So 10,000 plus 40,000, that is 50,000, minus 2,000, that is 48,000. You write there 48,000. That is expected production. And then you less normal loss. You less normal loss. So normal loss, according to the question round number 2, normal loss is 5% of the throughput. So you need to be very careful of the instruction on where the normal loss will emerge. Sometimes some question will direct you on the input material. The normal loss will be based on the input material or the throughput, like in this question is throughput. So it is 5% of 48,000. 5% of 48,000. So do that one very fast in 2 seconds. So when I do it, it is 2,000. I'll not be doing it. I'll do it separately, and I'll be giving you some seconds to do it. So it is 2,400 units. That is 5% of 48,000. That is a normal loss according to the question. So now this one, the resultant there is what is expected production. Expected production. So for 48,000 minus 2,400, you get 45,600. 45,600. This is the expected output, 45,600. And then you compare with the actual output. So the actual output, you always given that one, actual output. Actual output is 44,000. I hope you can be able to see 44,000. So now you ask yourself a question. We expected to get 45,600, but the actual output was 44,000. So less than what we expected. So the difference is called abnormal loss. You expected to produce 45,600 units, but the actual output was 44,000. So the difference is abnormal loss. So right there, abnormal loss. Abnormal loss, the difference between 45,600 and 44,000, that is 1,600. That is abnormal loss. So that is number 1, statement flow of production. You need to come up with the flow of production. We're saying it's a statement that shows the units that are expected to be produced vis-a-vis, you compare it with the actual production. Number 2, you need to determine the units started and completed. Units started and completed in the current period. That is the second step. Remember, this is the procedure you follow, whether you're using FIFO or weighted average. So we said under this weighted average, the unit started and completed in the current period is actual, is equivalent to actual production, actual output, which is equals to 44,000. Had it been FIFO method, you will have deducted the opening WIP units. That is the difference between FIFO and weighted average. That is the first and the second thing you do under this question. I'll pause for a while and ask any question from the listeners. Is there any question up to that point? Any question, anything that is not clear? Anything that is not clear? So we'll continue if there's no question. So after that, now you prepare to call the statement of equivalent unit. The statement of equivalent, unit. So what is this statement? This is a statement that convert the WIP, sorry. So I'm told that there's a question. We'll entertain a question before we continue. We'll entertain a question before we continue. So there's no question. Again, every time there is work in progress, the first step is to come up with a statement of indicating the flow of production. Number two, you need to determine the unit started and completed. And there's a difference when you're using FIFO and weighted average. When you're using FIFO, the unit started and completed in the current period is the actual output minus opening WIP. While using weighted average, the one that we're currently using, the unit started and completed in the current period is actual production. When you look at this question, the actual production for 4,000. And then after that, that's number three thing that you're supposed to do is to come up with a statement of equivalent unit. This is a statement that now determines the total units that were produced. That is the completed units and the work in progress unit. Work in progress are those units that are incomplete. So we convert them into the equivalent of completed units. That is why we call it statement of equivalent units. So we want to know what are the total units completed, work in progress unit plus the units completed. So that is what we're going to do immediately. That is what we're going to do immediately. That is what we're going to do. So statement of equivalent units is our next step. So right there, statement of equivalent units. Statement of equivalent units, and then you underline. Statement of equivalent units, and then you underline. So here we say it is very easy to prepare this statement, very easy to prepare this statement. So here we have inputs, units, output, units. So this one is material, and this is conversion. So that is how the statement of equivalent units appears. We said it's very easy to come up with this statement. Here you write the input items. The input items, the one that we're inputting. So the input item, the first item is opening WIP. opening WIP is the first input, and it was 10,000 units. You write there 10,000 units. And then there is input material. That is the second input, materials. Input materials. Input materials was 40,000 units. 40,000 units. Output, had it been FIFO method, the first output item will have been opening WIP. Opening WIP is also part of output when you're using FIFO method. But when you're using weighted average, it is not. So we'll start with the normal loss. Normal loss. Our normal loss was, our normal loss was how many units? 2,400 units. So right there, 2,400. And then there's abnormal loss. Abnormal loss. Abnormal loss was 1,600 units. 1,000 units started and completed. Units started and completed. Units started and completed, 44,000 units. And then we have closing WIP. So it's very easy to prepare this statement. How do you prepare it? There is an input side. You record, you indicate the item and the units. So the input, the opening WIP, and in case there is any other input material, you also record it and the units. And then the side of the output, you record the output items, which includes the normal loss, abnormal loss or abnormal gains, units started and completed, and the closing WIP. You record them the way they are. So the closing WIP units are 2,000 units. Very easy. Now you come here to the percentages, the conversion, which is now the elements which are applied to the items in order to make them complete. For normal loss, we said they have undergone through the whole process. So here, the normal loss, you put dash, dash, dash. And then the abnormal loss, they are the items that have come out from the process. So it will be 100% everywhere. That one 100%, 100%, 1,600 here. Units started and completed. They have undergone through the whole process. Therefore, it will be 100% and all the elements of cost. 100%, that's 44,000. And then here it's also 100%. That is 44,000. Then closing WIP, the question told us stage of completion is a half. That means the conversion sometimes can comprise overheads and labor. So the material always is 100%. Material is always 100%. It can never be incomplete. So material is always 100%. So you write here 100% because the material available to be 2,000 here. And then here they are saying it's 50%, a half, which is equivalent to 50%. So half of 2,000, which is 1,000. And then now you add all this. So the element, you add them downwardly. Here, I'll give you a few seconds to add 1,600 plus 44,000 plus 2,000. So according to my addition, this is 47,600. I'm not adding together with you today. I'm adding separately, and then I'll be giving you the answer. But if it is conflicting with mine, you can also raise that point. So here it is 46,600. That is how we prepare the statement of equivalent units. A very important statement. What is this statement again? It is a statement that converts the incompleted units into the equivalent of complete. We want to know these incomplete units. Supposing now we want to see them in terms of completed. How many are they? That is the essence of this statement. Now, so this is 47,600 and 46,600. That is the third. This is the third thing you do under statement under process costing where there is work in progress. Question? 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 So there's a question here. There's somebody saying that I clarified the question that I'm using. We are doing CPA section 2, November 2010, question number 1. That is what we are doing. We are doing CPA management accounting, CPA section 2, November 2010, question number 1. I had given it as an assignment after the first class. So if you're not there in the first class, you still can be able to understand this thing. We said we have 2 process costing is to determine the cost of a product that undergoes several processes. So the first, we have where we determine the cost per unit, and we don't have work in progress. We can also do process costing where we have work in progress. That is where the examiners like most, and that is where we are now. We have only considered the process A, what process B. So we are still going to continue. The question is not yet finished. Is that somebody who is raising a concern that we only consider process A? We will also do process B. Please be patient. We are yet to finish the question. Those are 2 comments. No any further comments. So we'll go to what we call cost per unit statement. That is number 4. Number 4. If you have question, if the speed is not okay, you write. So we are going to do so the cost per unit statement, cost per unit statement. That is this number 4 item, cost per unit. So here we have elements of cost. Here we have what we call total cost, which is opening WIP cost, opening WIP cost plus periodic cost. And then here we have equivalent units. And then here we have cost per unit. So we want to determine those elements of costs, the cost per unit of the finished product, that is. So when you're using weighted average method, it is different from FIFO. FIFO, you only consider the current period, the current cost, the current period cost. While when you're using weighted average, you combine both the opening WIP cost and the current period cost. So we'll start with the opening WIP cost. We start with the material. The first item here, material. So when you go there, the material, the opening W cost on material, it is 6 million. So you take the 6 million, and then you add the current cost, which is 22,600,000 plus 22,600,000. On material, you always less scrap value for normal loss. Scrap value for normal loss. Scrap value units were 2,400, and each unit was being sold at 250 shillings. So you multiply that one. So when you multiply that one, you get 6 million. So you deduct here 6 million. You deduct 6 million here. And then now here, the total will be 28 million. It will be 28 million. So when you add the 2, you get the 28 million here. Equivalent units under material were 47,600. 47,600 from the equivalent unit statement. And then you divide 28 million divided by 47,600, you get 588.235. If you do it, you get that one. That is the first. And then we have conversion here. Conversion, that is the second item. The opening WIP conversion cost was 1,500,000. So you take 1,500,000 plus the current period, you go to, which is 18 million, plus the current period, which is 18 million. So you add 18 million. There you get, the total will be 19,500,000. 19,500,000. Equivalent units, the equivalent units 46,600. The equivalent units 46,600. When you divide, you get 418.454. So those are the only, and then you add the two. You add 588.235 plus 418 point, so you get 106.69023 like that. So that is the cost per unit at that level, cost per unit. So for material, you take the opening WIP cost plus the current period cost minus the scrap value for normal loss. And then you divide it by the equivalent unit. And then total production costs transferred to process B. To process B is equals to 44,000 units, the one that were completed, times 1006.69023, which is 44,294,370. So that is, we'll have answered statement of goal and use process A. We have done that one. Now that is question A has been answered. And then question C, question B, total cost of production transferred process B. So we have already answered part A and B1. Part A and B1 are complete. So you can, I can also give you a chance to ask a question up to that point. Anything that is not clear, please ask before we go to process B. I'm reading. So there's somebody who is also asking the question. She's just joining us now. We are doing CPA section 2, November 2010, question number 1. This question has been posted to you, has been shared to WhatsApp account. You can be able to get that question there if you don't have it. There's another person here who's saying we only consider process A. We are considering all the processes. So we have only finished with process A. So we're going to process B. Any other question? Question? Comment? So we go to process B. We go to process B. But before we go to process B, we're going to value our work in progress, valuation of WIP. We're going to value our WIP. So there's a material was 100%, which was 2,000 units. We're going to multiply them by 588.235, and then we're going to have conversion. Conversion was 1,000 units, valued at 418.4545, which is, so when you multiply 2,000 times this one, what do you get? You get 11,000. So we can multiply together. So I also have a calculator, but I wanted not to use the calculator for the sake of time. So we have 2,000 units times 588.235. So you get 1176 for 70. 1176 for 70. That is, and then 1,000 times 418.45. So that is 418, 450. So you add the 2 plus 11, 764, 70. You get 1,594,925.52. So that is the valuation of work in progress. That is the valuation of work in progress. We are through with process A. Now we are ready for process B. In case you have any difficulties, please ask. We are going to process B now. We're going to process B now. Process B, we'll start with the flow of production again. Process B, we'll start with the flow of production. Always flow of production. So we have been given in the question opening WIP units. So we have opening WIP units, which is 12,000. It is there indicated. Remember, these are units, so don't confuse. Open WIP units from process A. Process A, they brought in 44,000 units. You less closing WIP units. Closing WIP units under process B, 16,000 units. 16,000 units. So this is 16,000 units. I'll give you a second to add 12 plus 44 minus 16,000. So this is what we call production stroke throughput. This is what we call production stroke throughput. So it is 12,000 plus 44,000 minus 16,000. You get 40,000. That is production. And then expected normal loss is based on normal loss. You get the normal loss here. Normal loss 5% of throughput for both processes. So it is 5% of 40,000. 5% of 40,000. 5% of 40,000, which is 2,000. You deduct that one, you get the expected production, expected output or production, expected output of production, which is 38,000. 38,000. Actual output, that one is provided. Actual output was 38,500. 38,500. So we expected 38,000, but we got 38,500. So the outcome was more than the expectation. The difference is called abnormal gain. Abnormal gain is the difference. When you get more than what you expected, the difference is 500. That one will be abnormal gain. That is number one again. Number two, units started and completed in the current period. Units started and completed in the current period is actual output, which is 38,500. Remember, you're using weighted average. Weighted average, we say, so that is the first two steps you do. They are similar. So that is how you approach all process costing question that includes work in progress. We have done that one. We'll move on to statement of equivalent units. Statement of equivalent units. Move on to statement of equivalent unit. Statement of equivalent unit. So we're going to statement of equivalent unit. Statement of equivalent. Statement of equivalent unit. Statement of equivalent unit. So that is how it appears. That is how it appears. So we start with the input material. Opening WIP opening WIP. It was 12,000 units. It is there given 12,000 unit. And then from process A, from process A, it was 44,000 units. So those are the only input. Remember, we're using weighted average. We said we don't, the opening WIP is not part of the output. Had it been, if we were using FIFO, it would have been part of output. So here we have normal loss, abnormal gain, completed units, and then we have WIP units. So our normal loss was 2,000 units. Our normal loss was 2,000 units. So you write there 2,000. Abnormal gain was 500. Abnormal gain, you deduct it. Completed units was 38,500. And then closing WIP units was 16,000. This one is given. This one you said you put dash, 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 dash. Then abnormal gain is 100% all through 500 in bracket, 100%, 500 in brackets. Completed units, they have undergone through the whole process, so it's 100% material, which is 38,500, and then 100% here, which is 38,500. WIP under material, we said it's always 100%. So this one will be 16,000. So being told under conversion, it is a half, which is the same as 50%. 50% here, it will be 8,000. And then now you add these items. You add these items here. Make sure you add this item. So here we have 56,000, which should always balance with this output, 56,000. So minus 500 plus 38,500 plus 16,000. That one will give us 54,000. Minus 500 plus 38,500 plus 8,000. That one will give us 46,000. So that is statement of equivalent. Hii ni rahisi sana kutengeneza. Hii side tumesema unaweka input. Input ni zile vitu umeweka kwa process na unaweka output. So una record units zenye umeweka. Kama hapa tulikuwa na work in progress, beginning unaweka 12,000. Alafu zile units zilitoka process 1 ni 44,000 unaongezea. Unakuja kwa output tumesema ni normal loss, abnormal gain ama abnormal loss, completed units na WIP units. Unaweka pale. WIP units unaangalia percentage ile yenye imemalizwa ndio unaweka hapo. Kwa material tumesema ni always 100%. Swali. Kama una swali tafadhali uliza, naangalia. Ule mtu ana swali tafadhali uliza. Tumesema tutatumia lugha zote, Kiswahili na Kizungu. So pia feel free kuuliza hata kwa Kiswahili. Haja yetu ni kwamba kila mtu aelewe. So we want everybody to understand. You can ask in English or you can even ask in English. You can ask in English or Swahili. So I want to imagine everybody is following. So if there's no question, which I am unable to see, we're going to continue. So we're going to continue. Cost per unit statement, that is the third last thing you're supposed to do. Cost per unit statement. Cost per unit statement. So here we said element of cost. Element of cost is total cost. That is opening WIP cost plus periodic cost. Periodic cost. This is equivalent equivalent units, and then this cost per unit. So that is our third last thing that you're going to. So we start here with material cost. With material, we start with material costs. Material costs. So the material cost, the opening WAP cost was 9,800,000. It is indicated there, plus the current cost, which is 13,200,000. 13,200,000, isn't it? Because this is the last process. You will also include the cost of completed units from the previous, from process A. You will include them, which was 294, 370. So you'll add those three components, and then you less scrap value. Scrap value, normal loss. Scrap value, normal loss, which was 2,000 units. At this level, they are being sold at process B, they are being sold at 500. So that is 1 million. So 2,000, you can add 2,000, you multiply by 500, you get 1 million. So you deduct here 1 million. You deduct 1 million. So we are going to add together here. We're going to add together here. So we have 9,800,000 plus 13,200,000 plus 44,294, 370 minus 1 million. So that is 66. That is 66, 294, 370. That is for material. And then the equivalent units is 54,000. 54,000. When you divide, you get 1227.67. 0.67. This is 6. And then you go to conversion. You go to conversion. The opening WAP, it is 11,200,000 plus the periodic cost, which is conversion is 63 million. 63 million. So you add 63 million there. You get 74,200,000. 74,200,000. You divide by the equivalent, which is 46,000. You get 200,000 divided by 46,000, which is 1613, 16.0. And then you get the total 2840.16. So that is, so total cost of production, total cost of production is equals to the units that were completed is 228. So it will be 2840.16 times 38,500, which is equals to 10,936, 7604. So that one will bring us close to the end of the question. That will bring us to the close of the end. So the essence of a statement of cost per unit is to be able now to do the valuation of the total closing completed units plus its incomplete units, which we call it work in progress, Then we will do the valuation of, we're going to do the valuation of closing WIP, and then we'll have completed our question at that point. In case you have a question, you are always free to ask. So the last item that you're going to do is the valuation of WIP. We're going to value WIP costs, and then we'll have completed our question. So valuation of WIP cost. Valuation of WIP. So we're going to value WIP. So we have material. Material, it was 16,000 full times 1227.67, which is 1964,277.6.3. And then we have conversion. Conversion, it is 8,000 times 1613.043, which is 4. So that is the end of the question. It's as simple as that. We don't want to waste more time. We want to go straight away to the second question, which I also had given the previous class. So these are strategic questions. They are questions that are meant to assist you understand the topic more and more. So this one, a student had pointed out that he had difficulties in solving this question. That is why I began with it when we are still fresh, so that it can make you now understand the topic more and more. So we'll do, without wasting time, we'll switch on to question number, we'll go to our second question. That is June 2013, question 2B. June 2013, question 2B. We are doing CPA June 2013, question 2B, process costing. So switch with me to that question, or a few minutes, you can ask question. We are doing CPA. We are doing CPA process costing. We have already done November 2010 question number 1. This was an assignment from the last class. Now we want to do question number 2, which is June 2013 question number 2B. So open with me June 2013 question number 2B. June 2013 question number 2B. I can be able to display it on the board so that everybody can be able to see. It is there displayed. I can enlarge it there. Yeah. 2B there. Those ones that do not have it, I already shared with it, but most of us have this question. So I'll read the question. It reads, Unique Limited manufactures single product. The product passes through 3 processes before completion. In the month of January 2013, the following data was recorded in respect to process 2. Opening stock, 1,900 units valued at 4,500 Kenya shillings, made up of direct materials, 2,300, degree of completion 80%, direct labor 1,100 shillings, degree of completion 60%, production overhead 1,100 shillings, degree of completion 40%. Additional information, number 1, transfer from process 1 were 15,000 units valued at 52,500 shillings. Number 2, transfer to process 3 were 12,400 units. Additional information number 3, the cost incurred in process 2 as follows: direct materials 18,300 shillings, direct labor 23,000 shillings, production overhead 17,200 shillings. On completion of process, number 4, on completion of process 2, 800 units were scrapped at 5 shillings per unit. Number 5, 3,700 units of closing stock were completed as follows: direct materials 90%, direct labor 70%, production overhead 50%. Additional information number 6, during production, a normal loss of 8% of input is expected. Number 7, Unique Limited uses the first in, first out, in bracket FIFO method of stock valuation. Required, number 1, statement of equivalent production. Number 2, statement of cost. And number 3, process 2 account. So these are very good questions also. So we'll do it and then you will be able to do the others. So we'll do it and you'll be able to do the others. I hope everybody has that question. In case you don't have that question, please make sure you link up with the WhatsApp group. It is shared there. You can be able to get that question. You can be able to get that. So as we said, the first step when you're doing process costing question, where there is work in progress, we come up with the flow of production. Flow of production, that is the first step. So you take opening WIP. In our question, opening WIP units is 1900 units. Add input materials, input materials according to our question, direct materials, input materials, additional information number. There was 15,000 units that were transferred from process one, so that is the input, 15,000 units. Then you less closing WIP, closing WIP units. In our question, it is found in note number. Just a minute. It is found in note number. Sorry, the closing it's not number 5. You get 3,700. You deduct that one, you get what we call production or throughput. This is what we call production or throughput. It is 13,200 units. You less normal loss, Normal loss is 8% of inputs, which is 15,000. You get 1,000. 8% of 15,000 is 1,200. You deduct that one. You get expected output or production. 13,200 minus 1,200, so that is 12,000. You compare it with the actual output. The actual output are provided, which is 12,400, note number 2, 12,400. So we expected to produce 12,000 units, but 12,400 units were produced. So the actual output is more than the expectation. The difference we said is abnormal gain. Abnormal gain is the difference. 400. So we gained here abnormally by 400 units. That is the flow of production. Whether you're using FIFO or weighted average, you must come up with that statement. And then that is number 1. Number 2, units started and completed in the current period. Units started and completed in the current period. Units started and completed in the current period is actual units, actual output minus opening WIP units when you're using FIFO method. So actual output is 12,400 minus 1,900. So that is equals to 10,500 units. So that is 1 and 2. Question, maswali. Kitu yote yenye haiko sawa, tafadhali uliza. This is our question number 2 in our today class. So we go and prepare what we call the statement of equivalent units. We prepare what we call the statement of equivalent units. We prepare what we call the statement of equivalent units. Statement of equivalent unit. That is the third thing you do. Statement of equivalent units. I'll use just similar pen. Statement of equivalent units. Statement of equivalent units. So here you draw it very nicely. So here we have input, units, output, units. We have material one, material two, and then we have labor and overheads. So we said you put here the inputs, opening WIP units, which was 1,900. And then we have the from process material input was 15,000 unit. We said when you're using FIFO method, opening WIP is part of output. So you start with that one, opening WIP, which is 1,900. Then we have normal loss. We have abnormal gain. And then we have units completed. We have units completed. And then we have closing WIP. So our normal loss was 1,200. Abnormal gain was 400. We deduct that one. And then we had units completed, 10,500. And then we have closing WIP, which was 3,700. So now when it comes to opening WIP, you check the percentages of completion provided. Percentage of completion provided. You check the percentage of completion provided. So we have been given direct materials, it was 80%. So here the first one is normally completed 100%. So you check, we said, when you have the degree of completion for WIP, you take 100% minus the percentages provided. For direct materials, normally the first material, that is material one, the incoming in material is normally 0. So 100. So the input material, which is 80%, it's completed 80%. The remaining percentages is 20. So you write there 20%. So you take 20% of 1,900, 20% of 1,900, which is 380. And then the labor, you take 100 minus 60%, which is 40%. So the incomplete percentage is 40% of 1,900, which is 760. And then for overhead, it is 40%. So you take 100 minus 40, so it is remaining 60%. 60% of 1,900 is 1,140. That is what you said. So you take the percentages provided, you deduct them, you take 100 and deduct those percentages. What it means here is it had been completed by, the direct material had been completed by 80%. So the remaining percentages was 20%. That is what you deduct. Normal loss, we said, you put dash across, and then abnormal gain 100%, which is minus 400 for direct material one. And then for material two, again, it is 100%, which is 400 minus. And then for labor, it is 100% again, which is minus 400. And then for overhead, it is 100%, which is 400 minus. Then you go to the units started and completed. It means these are units completed, therefore they have gone through the whole process. Then material one, it will be 100% again, which is 10,500. And then we have material two, 100%, which is 10,500. And then we have labor, which is 100%, 10,500. And then we have overhead, which is 100%, which is 10,500. Closing WIP, you have been given the degrees of completion in note number 5. This one, you take the percentages provided. You take the percentage provided against the units given, So for direct materials, 90% against 3,700, 90%. So just right there, 90. So for material 1 is always 100. Material 1 is always 100, as I had said earlier on. So it will be 100%, which is 3,700. And then for material 2, it is 90%. You take 90 the way it is provided, 90% of 3,700, which is 3,330, 3,330. For labor, it is 70%. So you take 70% the way it is given, 70% times 3,700, which is 2,590. And then lastly, production overhead is 50%. 50% of 3,700 is 1,850. 1,850. And then you add these items, you add them together. You add each column. So this one is 16,900, the first input units. Output will be 16,900. Material 1, it is 13,800. 13,800. Material 2, it is 13,810. Material labor, labor is 13,450. And then for overhead is 13,090. 13,090. That is the statement of equivalent units. It's very easy. Again, you write the input the way they appear. The input we said is the opening WIP units, add material input, then output. Output, when you're using FIFO, like the way we are using, opening WIP units is part of output. And then normal loss is part of output. Output items includes opening WIP in case you're using FIFO, normal loss, abnormal gain, units started and completed and closing WIP. You write the units and then now you complete it with the percentages of completion. That is before you go to the statement of equivalence, the cost statement. So third last item, before you go third last item, is it third last or fourth last? It is what we call statement of cost per unit. Statement of cost per unit. Statement of cost per unit. So here we have elements of costs. We have element of cost. Here we have total cost. Total cost. Here we say we use only periodic cost. This is periodic cost. This is equivalent units, and then this cost per unit. So when you're doing cost statement of cost per unit, when you're using FIFO, we only consider the periodic cost only. We only consider the periodic cost. So material 1. So we've been told transfers from process 1 were 15,000 units valued at 52,500. So the valuation of this material was 52,500. 52,500. So that is the material that was input into the process in the current period, and the value was 52,500. Because we are using FIFO method, we will not bother about the opening WIP cost. Then you less scrap value, normal loss. Scrap value, normal loss. Our normal loss was 1,200 units, and the 1,200 units, the cost in note number 4, completion process B, 800 units was scrapped at 5 per. Process 2, 800 units was scrapped at 5 per unit. So that is 1,200 times 5. 1,200 times 5. So you take 1,200 times 5, you get 6,000. So you deduct here 6,000. 52,500 minus 6,000, you get what we call 46,500. Equivalent units was 13,800. You divide that one, you get 3.37. Material 2, the actual cost is given, which is 18,300. 18,300, you divide by the equivalent units, which was 13,810. 13,810, you get 1.33. And then we have labor. The cost is also provided, which is 23,000 in note number 3. 23,000. You divide by the equivalent units, which is 13,450. You get 1.71, and then we have overheads. Overheads, 17,200. You divide by 13,090, you get 1.31. So total cost there is 7.72. That is a statement of equivalent units. What is a statement of equivalent units? Any question? Anything that is not clear? Anything that is confusing? Anything that is confusing? After that, now you very fast, you go and value what you call, you do valuation of closing WIP. You do the valuation of closing WIP. So you do closing valuation of closing WIP, valuation of closing WIP. So we had materials, material one, it was 3,700 at 3.3. You get the answer. Then we had material 2, that is material 1, and then we had material 2, which is 3,330 times 1.33. And then we had labor, which was 2,590. You multiply by 1.71, and then we had overheads. Which was 1,850. You multiply by 1.31. You get the answers there. You get the answers here. So here it is 12,432. Here is 44,28.9. And then here is 44,28.9. And then here is 24,23.5. So total here, when you round it off, is 23,714. That is the value of closing WIP. And then you get the value of abnormal gain. Abnormal gain is 7.72. The total cost, that is, times 400. You get the 3088. You can also get the value. So we go now to the last portion of the question, and then we'll have done enough in terms of so the question required us to prepare what we call process account. Process account. So process account, we say it has two sides, the input and output side. So the input and output side. So process account here. Process account. So here we have the details. We have the units, cost per unit, Then here we have the amount. We have details here, the units, cost per unit, then amount. So that is the process account. We said the left-hand side of the process account represents the size where input are recorded, and the right-hand side is where output is recorded. Input, it was opening WIP units, 1,900. The total cost was 4,500 is given. From previous process, from material from previous process, material from previous process, 15,000. The value was 52,500. It was given. And then we have input material. That is, we call it material 2. Material 2. The value is given, which is 18,300. And then we had labor, which is 23,000. And then we have overheads. Overheads, 17,200. And then we have abnormal gain. Abnormal gain, which is 3088. This one we did the valuation. So those are the input side. The output, normal loss, 1,200 units. We had done, each was 6,000. And then we have finished goods. Finished goods was 12,400. 12,400. 12,400. 12,400. You multiply by the 7.72. That was a cost per unit. The entire, the total cost per unit was 7.72. So you multiply 12,400 times 7.72. You get 95. 7.72. You get 95,728. And then closing WIP, which was 3,700. We had done the valuation, which was 23,714. And then you come add this one would be 17,300. And this is 11,85,88. And this one is so this one will be 17. If you add 1,200 plus 12,400 plus 3,700, you get 17,300. So this one will be 17,300, and this one will be 11,85,88. So that one will bring us to the end of that question. That one will bring us to the end of that question. Any question? Any question, comment, or anything that is not clear? Question, comment? So we've done two questions. The first question was CPA November 2010, question number 1. And the second question was June 2013, question number 2B. All of them we've done successfully, and I hope everybody have understood what we've done. In case you have a question, please, you can ask so that we can be able to respond. Any question? So if there's no question, what question is this? You moved too fast from valuation of abnormal gain. Which question is that? A valuation of abnormal gain where? There's somebody who's saying I moved very fast when it comes to valuation of abnormal gain. Abnormal gain, you simply take the units that are the units multiplied by the total costs per unit. The total cost per unit statement, take that value and then you multiply by the abnormal loss units, and then you get the value for abnormal gain. abnormal gain, sorry, abnormal gain or abnormal loss, you simply take the abnormal gain units, you multiply by the total cost. The total cost, in our case, in June 2013 question, the total cost was 7.72, if you can refer. And then the total units of abnormal gain were 400 units. So when you multiply that, you get the value for abnormal gain. That is what I did. Another question. So that was the question that was asked. Another question. Any question? So I have seen only 2 questions. The other ones from the previous question. The current question, I think there's a student who was concerned that on the evaluation of the abnormal gain. I've explained that one. I can explain again. We said you take the total cost multiplied by the abnormal gain units, which I normally indicated in the statement of equivalent units, and even the flow production statement. So we also want to do another aspect of process costing called joint products. I had sent some material. I had shared some material in the WhatsApp. So we also do some what we call the joint product. If time allow, we still have around 15 minutes. Our class is supposed to end at 8:30. So we'll go through that one very fast. In case we don't finish, we'll consider it in the next. We'll finish it in the next class. We want to touch on it very fast. So assignment for process costing. Make sure you attempt December 2013. December, I'm not sure the question, but there's a question on process costing. We can go there very fast. So assignment here for process costing, December 2013, question number 3. So that is the assignment. Please do that one and then send it through WhatsApp. I'll be able to respond. In case you have difficulties, you can go and do several questions. Any question that you meet or find in the past papers on process costing, attempt it. If you have difficulties, let me know. So we'll not be doing that process costing again. My expectation is if that question is examined, you'll be able to do it comfortably. So we are moving on. We want to do what we call joint product or joint cost. So a joint product is a product that emerges from a process that have more than one product. So our problem is, how do we share the joint costs? How do you share the joint costs? I had shared some notes on the same, but I'll go through the method that, so the joint product requires further processing in order for it to be sold. And these costs are normally shared amongst the product that were being processed. So we're saying a joint product is a product that emerges from a process that has more than one product. So this product normally undergoes further processing for it to be sold. And therefore, the costs that are used to process it further are normally shared amongst the product that were being produced. So they are around 3 methods, four methods of sharing the joint costs. The first method is what we call physical method. Physical method, simply you share the joint cost based on the output of each and every product. So we share it, we get the total units that were produced, and then each and every product, we get the ratio, we share the joint cost based on the output. That is the physical method. Number 2 is what is called the sales value method. Sales value method is where we get the value of the sales of each and every product that was produced. And then we get the ratio, and then we multiply by the joint cost. Number 3 is what we call net reliable value, net realizable value. Net reliable value is the value that is obtained after further costs, either after further processing costs or any other further costs that are required for the product to be sold. E.g., if a product requires that it is packaged or it's processed even further, there are further costs that we incur. And because of that, the sharing of the joint cost will be based on the net reliable value, on the further cost. So we'll deduct the sales value plus any other cost that is required for the product to be sold. So I had shared there's a question that we're supposed to do on that. That is June 2009. I had given out the question. So I don't know that we'll be able to finish that question. We have 10 minutes, but we'll do it very fast. We'll do it very fast. In case we are unable to do it, we'll do it in the next class. So I'll read the question. I'll read the question for the purposes of us doing it. We are doing what we call the joint cost or joint product. Or we are doing the joint cost or joint product. So the question is there, June 2009, question 4B. I had shared the question. I had shared the question. So I don't know that you can be able to see the questions. It reads, Good Hope Pharmaceutical Company purchases a raw material that is processed to yield 3 chemicals, namely Zitamol, Paramol, and Betamol. In January, in January 2009, the company purchased 10,000 kilograms of the raw materials at a cost of 2,500,000 and incurred joint cost of 700,000. Sales and production information for the month of January 2009 was follows. Zitamol will be given the column for kilograms produced. Price at split of simply means at the point of sale. And then we have further processing cost per kilograms, and then eventually selling price. So Zitamol, we have 2,000 units, 3,000 for Paramol, and Betamol, we have 5,000. You can be able to see from the screen. And then price at split off. Split off means at the point of sale. That is price, before any further processing. At the point of sale, Zitamol was being sold at 550. Zitamol and Paramol are sold to other pharmaceutical companies at the split-off point. Betamol can be sold at the split-off point or processed further and packaged for a sale as an asthma medication. Required, allocate the joint cost to the 3 products using Roman 1, the physical units method, Roman 2, the sales value at split-off method, Roman 3, the net reliable value method. Roman 4, suppose that half the production of Paramol could be purified and mixed with all the production of Zitamol to yield paracetamol. All further processing costs amount to 350,000 shillings. The selling price for paracetamol is 1,120 shillings per kilogram. Advise the company on whether to further process Zitamol to 2,000 kilograms of paracetamol. That is the requirement. That is the requirement. It's a very nice question. We're going to do it together briefly. We might not be able to finish the question, but we'll do it. We'll start it and be able to see where we'll be able to reach, but eventually we'll finish it. So they wanted us, the first requirement of the question wanted us to, before you even allocate the joint cost, you're supposed to accumulate them. You're supposed to know the total, joint cost. That's the first thing you do under joint product, under joint cost. So you'll be able to sustain the total cost of the joint product. So we have total unit cost. So here we start with the total unit costs, total units cost. So we have material cost. The material cost that was used was 2,500,000. And then we had joint conversion cost. Joint conversion cost was 700,000. So these are the total joint cost, which is 3,200,000. So these are the costs we are supposed to. These are the costs that we are supposed to allocate. So because of time, we'll be able to continue with this question next class. We'll be able to finish this, and then we'll be able to look at what we call marginal and absorption costing. So we'll finish this question and continue with the marginal and absorption costing. In case you have any question, please forward it through WhatsApp, and then we'll be able to respond to you. Thank you for your time.